Many of the bravest black freedom fighters in history never made it into your school textbooks. Men and women who didn't just fight back against slavery and racism. They organized armies. They outsmarted empires. They risked everything for freedom and dignity. They stood tall and refused to accept chains. Stick around, today we're bringing 8 powerful black stories back into the light. Did you ever hear about the man who looked slavery in the face and said, "Not today"? That was Nat Turner. He wasn't just resisting, he was fighting for the right to live as a human being. Nat was born into slavery in Virginia, where people were treated like property, whipped, bought, sold, separated from family. The system was designed to crush any hope of freedom. But Nat? He held on to his faith, his vision, and his fire. He believed he was chosen by God to lead his people to liberation. So in 1831, when a solar eclipse lit up the sky, Nat saw it as a sign. He gathered a small group of fellow enslaved men and launched one of the most daring uprisings in U.S. history. For 2 days, they moved through plantations, freeing people and striking down those who upheld their oppression. It wasn't about revenge, it was about revolution. Eventually, Nat was captured, tortured, and executed, but his name lived on. He showed the world that enslaved people weren't just victims, they were warriors. And sometimes freedom has to be taken. Nat Turner's rebellion sent shockwaves through the South, but halfway across the world, another warrior queen was making colonial powers tremble. Did you know one of the fiercest warriors against European colonizers was a queen in her 60s? Meet Queen Nzinga of Ndongo and Matamba, what is today Angola. When the Portuguese showed up in the 1600s, they weren't bringing friendship bracelets, they were bringing chains. They wanted land, slaves, and total control. Nzinga said, "Not on my watch." When the Portuguese tried to humiliate her during negotiations, making her sit on the floor like she was beneath them, Nzinga coolly ordered one of her own soldiers to get down on hands and knees. She sat on his back like a throne. Power move. But Nzinga didn't just win negotiations. She built an independent kingdom powerful enough to control major trade routes and hold off European armies for decades. When diplomacy didn't work, she picked up a spear. When fighting wasn't enough, she forged alliances and outsmarted enemy generals at their own game. Nzinga kept her people free until her death in 1663. It was only after she passed that the Portuguese were able to tighten their grip on the region. She fought for her people's survival, their dignity, and their future, until her last breath. From the jungles of Angola to the streets of Harlem, the fight for dignity never stopped. And no one embodied that fire quite like Malcolm X. You know who didn't believe in waiting patiently for civil rights? Malcolm X. Waiting was killing people, and Malcolm knew it. Born Malcolm Little in 1925, he grew up in a world built on segregation, racism, and violence. His father was killed, likely by white supremacists. His mother was institutionalized after years of trauma. The American dream? Yeah, not made for him. Malcolm fell into crime young, but prison didn't break him. It woke him up. He educated himself behind bars, joined the Nation of Islam, and came out swinging. Malcolm X wasn't asking for freedom. He was demanding it, by any means necessary. He called out police brutality. He exposed how deep racism ran in America's systems. Not just the South, but the North too. He told black people they didn't need to beg for dignity. They were born with it. The media painted him as dangerous. But to millions, Malcolm X was hope, clarity, and courage. He was assassinated in 1965, but his words, still shaking the world. Malcolm's voice shook America. But decades earlier, one man shook an empire right to its knees. Ever heard of the man who crushed an empire and helped create the first free black nation in the Americas? That was Toussaint Louverture. Born into slavery in 1743 on the island of Saint-Domingue, today we call it Haiti, Toussaint somehow rose up through the brutal plantation system. He earned his freedom, built a small fortune, yeah, he even owned slaves himself for a time. History's messy, right? But when the Haitian Revolution exploded in the 1790s, Toussaint switched gears. Hard. He became a general, leading armies of formerly enslaved people against the French, Spanish, and British, and he didn't just fight, he outsmarted them. Toussaint was known for surprise attacks, flipping alliances and turning enemies into allies. Under his leadership, Haiti crushed colonial forces and declared itself free, the first successful slave revolt that actually built a nation. He was eventually betrayed, captured, and died imprisoned in France. But Toussaint had already lit a fire that no empire could put out. And Toussaint's spirit of rebellion wasn't just in the Caribbean. It lit a spark in the American South, too, where Denmark Vesey took his shot at history. He won the lottery, bought his freedom, and then tried to lead the biggest slave revolt in U.S. history. That was Denmark Vesey. Born enslaved in the Caribbean and sold to Charleston, South Carolina, Vesey somehow managed to win a $1,500 lottery, a massive sum back then. He used it to buy his freedom in 1799. But freedom for one man wasn't enough. Denmark Vesey saw slavery for what it was, a brutal, racist system built to break people. So he started organizing. By 1822, Vesey had secretly recruited hundreds of enslaved people across Charleston for a massive uprising. They planned to arm themselves, kill slaveholders, burn the city, and sail to Haiti, the only black republic at the time. This was huge, until someone betrayed him. The plan was leaked. Vesey and dozens of others were arrested, tried, and executed. But his vision? It didn't die with him. Denmark Vesey's name became a warning to the powerful, and a symbol of resistance to the oppressed. And while some planned revolts in secret, others took the fight straight to the battlefield, like a woman who led her people at the age of 60. When the British tried to steal the Ashanti Empire's royal throne, a 60-year-old queen grabbed a gun and said, "Over my dead body." That was Ya Asantewa. Born around 1840, Ya lived through the height of the Ashanti Empire, one of the most powerful kingdoms in West Africa. But by the late 1800s, British colonizers were coming hard for Ashanti land, gold, and most insultingly, their sacred Golden Stool, the symbol of the Ashanti people's soul. When the male chiefs hesitated, Ya Asantewa stood up and called them out. She said, "If you, the men, will not fight, then we, the women, will." Mic drop. Her fire lit a movement. The men rallied behind her leadership, and together they launched the War of the Golden Stool in 1900, fighting fierce battles to defend their homeland from British control. And even though the Ashanti eventually fell under colonial rule, Ya Asantewa showed that resistance wasn't just possible, it was powerful. Today, she's remembered not just as a queen, but as a warrior who refused to let her people's dignity be stolen without a fight. Follow for more stories of leaders who stood tall when empires came knocking. And across the Atlantic, one woman didn't just run for her life. She ran back again and again to save others. If escaping slavery once sounds brave, imagine going back over a dozen times to save others with a bounty on your head the whole time. That's Harriet Tubman. Born into brutal slavery in Maryland, Harriet grew up knowing the sting of whips and the heartbreak of families torn apart. But Harriet didn't just dream of freedom, she took it. And then she risked everything to go back, again and again. She didn't have GPS maps or backup plans. She relied on the stars, the rivers, the trees, her deep knowledge of the land to guide people along the Underground Railroad. She knew where to find food in the wild. She knew how to hide in the swamps. She carried a pistol, not just for protection, but to remind anyone getting cold feet, freedom or die. And Harriet's fight didn't stop there. During the Civil War, she worked as a Union spy, nurse, and scout. She even led a military raid, the Combahee River Raid, freeing over 700 enslaved people in a single night. Harriet Tubman wasn't just about survival. She was a strategist, a warrior, and a symbol of unstoppable resistance. Freedom isn't just given, it's fought for, it's demanded, it's paid for, in sweat, in sacrifice, and sometimes in blood. The names you heard today aren't just legends. They are reminders that ordinary people, armed with courage, vision, and heart, can rewrite the world. And now that you know their names, don't let them be forgotten. If you believe these stories deserve to be heard, like this video, subscribe for more hidden history, and share it with someone who's ready to hear the truth. The fight for freedom never ended. It's still being written, and so are you. So